We'll start that. I'd just like to remind all the radio amateurs who have not checked in that you do not need to be a member of any group or club to check in or to use the repeater or any of the amateur radio bands. All that is required of you or from you is that you have a valid amateur radio license issued by ECRN, which automatically grants you that right to use any of the amateur bands at any time. There is no need to ask for or be granted permission from anyone to use the repeater or the bands. I'd also like to encourage all the listeners and participants to share the Weekly Net, the Weekly Net Zoom link with everyone they know throughout South Africa. Doing so will help us grow the Weekly Net and will contribute to disseminating information as far and wide as possible. Okay, ZS6OPS returning. Time to unpack the COVID-19 figures. And as per the norm, every one of the sites is shut down. The tracking sites are no longer tracking COVID, with the exception of the World Health Organization. And as at the 27th of September 2023, 0600 in the morning, the World Health has globally reported 770,872,433 confirmed cases, compared to the previous week of 770,778,000. This week, we see an increase of only 94,000 compared to the previous week's increase of 214. The global death toll now stands at 6,959,316. That's basically an increase of 817 this week in comparison to the previous week of 1,283. Moving on to Mpox. Mpox has now been reported at 90,618 cases globally, and that, of course, is at the 26th of December. Compared to the 90,465 of the previous week. We are up on the cases this week, 153 new cases. The previous week was only 88. South Africa, still no further cases have been reported. Our figures currently still stand at 5. This has been for 14 months now, with no death being reported at all for Mpox, otherwise known or previously known as monkeypox. Okay, ZS6OPS returning. So following the current outbreak of measles in the country, as I state each week, I am including the weekly figures in the interest of public health. And again, as at the 26th of September, first time ever that I've had 3 in a row on the same date. Somebody please do not shout bingo. So as at the 26th of September 2023, South Africa has 1,186 cases compared to 1,174. It's a weekly increase of 12. Limpopo is still leading the pack with 528, followed by the Northwest at 222 and Gauteng at 209. Gauteng reported 1 additional case this week. Now, because this next one is a bit of a long one, let me reset my timer, and then we will continue with some general news. ZS6OPS returning and also reporting according to the news.un.org website, the 28th of September 2023, United Nations Affairs. More than 16,000 children are displaced in eastern Libya following Africa's deadliest storm in recorded history. The UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, warned on Thursday, highlighting the urgent need for psychosocial care. UNICEF stated that many more children are affected due to the lack of essential services such as health, schooling, and safe water supply. When disasters hit, children are always amongst the most vulnerable, said Adele Coder, UNICEF's regional director, who has just returned from a visit to Al Baida and Derna being the worst hit. Catastrophic flooding, Storm Danielle, struck eastern Libya on the 10th of September and left widespread flooding and destruction in its wake across Derna, Al-Baida, Sosa, Al-Marj, Shahat, Tatni, Bata, Talmaita, Bersi, Tokra, and Al-Baya. Torrential rainfall and the collapse of 2 dams flooded the coastal city, sweeping entire neighborhoods into the Mediterranean Sea. Close to 4,000 died in the floods and 9,000 more are still unaccounted for. So 9,000 are still missing, according to the WHO. While the missing are presumed dead, their bodies still trapped under debris or in the sea. Many still hope their loved ones could still be alive. The deadly flooding has forced schools to host sub-displaced families. UNICEF has been working with authorities and partners since the beginning of the tragedy to respond to the urgent needs of children and families in the affected areas. Haunted day and night, I saw the devastating toll the floods have already taken on children and families. I met families grappling with a high psychological burden, and I spoke to children in extreme distress, many not sleeping and unable to interact and play. Ms. Kodo said, the memory of what happened still haunts their dreams and their thoughts. Now is the time to focus on recovery, including supporting the reopening of schools. Z6OPS returning. So including support the reopening of schools, provide psychosocial support, rehabilitate primary healthcare facilities, and restore water systems. The tragedy is not over, and we should not forget the children of Derna and Al-Baida. There is a cry for help in this instance, according to the headline. The number of children among the casualties is not yet confirmed, but UNICEF fears hundreds died in the disaster. Given that children account for about 40% of the population, significant damage to health and education infrastructure means children once again risk further disruption to their learning and the outbreak of deadly diseases. In the impacted region, out of 117 schools, 4 were destroyed and 80 partially damaged. Waterborne illnesses are a growing concern due to water supply issues. Significant damage to the water source and sewer networks. In Derna alone, 50% of water systems were estimated to have been destroyed. UNICEF has been actively supporting the children in eastern Libya since day 2 of the crisis. 65 metric tons of relief supplies have been delivered to affected areas, including medical supplies for 50,000 people for 3 months. I want to tell you something, just breaking away from the quote. That is a lot of medicaments and medical equipment. 50,000 people for 3 months. It is a massive amount of stock. So to continue with the quote, 50,000 people for 3 months, family hygiene kits for almost 17,000 people, 500 children's winter clothing sets, 200 school in a box kits, and 32,000 water purification tablets. ZS6OPS returning. The Children's Agency has also dispatched mobile child protection and psychosocial support teams. As we continue our life-saving response efforts, we also appeal to the authorities and donors to invest in long-term recovery that is equitable, resilient, and child-focused, added Ms. Koda. I felt I needed to share this follow-up, seeing as it's 21 days, 3 weeks since the initial flooding took place, how quickly time flies. And on the back end of the fact that Rand Water did issue that warning that their systems could fail, that's something we shouldn't lose sight of. And, we're looking at these numbers. I'm not too sure what the demographic population looks like in Derna and Albeida. Would be interesting to see. Maybe I should research it for next week. But the point that I'd like to bring home to all the listeners is quite simply this, that if Rand Water were to suffer some catastrophic failure of the water distribution, not necessarily the reticulation, because if there's no distribution, the reticulated system will not operate through Johannesburg Water. We stand at almost 6.5 million people in Johannesburg alone. And of course, Rand Water doesn't only supply the city of Johannesburg, but Ekurhuleni, and also out parts of Magall City and all the way through to Rustenburg. So there could be quite a number of affected people without water. And of course, without decent drinking water and potable water, there could be a massive disease outbreak, which is going to become a health hazard of note. And that is something that I wanted to point out. And even there to radio amateurs, it's really time that you guys start spreading the word, not the disease, but rather spread the word. Encourage people to get up on the nets, invite your family, friends over when we have these radio broadcasts on a Sunday evening. Remain updated and informed. And of course, consider registering as a disaster relief cert volunteer as well. So in closing, as I've just said, I'd like to encourage everyone to register as a disaster relief cert volunteer and to prepare and train to assist local communities when a disaster strikes. So that being said, radio amateurs who have not checked in, please provide your call sign now, and I'll add you to this week's checking list. ZS6OP is standing by. Okay, nothing else heard. So therefore, on that note, as we bring this session to a close, I'd like to thank all of those who have checked in this week, as well as those who have joined via Zoom. FPS did join us. And as the COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing and is still infecting thousands weekly, please remember, and I must tell you that it's affecting people in South Africa, not just internationally or globally. There are several people in the last month that I know that have actually contracted COVID. And have had to cancel appointments with me as a result thereof. So please remember to physically distance yourself and to wear a mask to protect others, especially the elderly who could lose their lives if infected with COVID-19. Remember, it's always best in any event to sanitize or wash your hands on a regular basis. Doing so will assist in stopping the spread of other respiratory diseases as well. So for the week moving forward, be safe, be prepared, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6OPS, now releasing the Rudderpoort repeater for general use. Cheers all.